So good morning, everyone. Today we are going to see lecture number 5 of machine learning, where we'll be continuing with the previous topic that was types of learning. So today I'm going to take the fourth type of learning that is called reinforcement learning. So we'll understand what is reinforcement learning, and after that we'll begin with some of the popular algorithms of supervised learning, where one of the algorithms we have already seen that is called K-means algorithm. I have told you, I have explained that K-means algorithm in my lecture where I have explained what is supervised learning. So let us just start with this reinforcement learning, and further I'm going to cover up today's topic of supervised learning algorithm, that is decision tree algorithms. So without any wasting time, let us just quickly get over to it. So as I told you, today we will be seeing reinforcement learning and few of the supervised learning algorithms, which is the first algorithm that we are going to take is decision tree algorithms. So let's see what is it. So here are my objectives for today's lecture. We are going to objective would be to understand the concept of reinforcement learning. What is it? Then we are going to learn various supervised learning algorithm, especially in today's lecture. It would be decision tree. Then we'll see the limitations of this algorithm. So these are the three basic objectives of today's lecture. So, as told by Simon, learning is any process by which a system improves performance from experience. Even that is applicable on human being. You understand this thing that until and unless I know something, I cannot do it. And as soon as I learn to do something, I would be able to do it with every time with a greater efficiency and with a greater performance. So, see, experience matters a lot. A person with an experience, he knows much more than the person who is novice in a particular field. So this is the same case with the machine also. When you are training your machine, when you are making an artificial intelligence system, it is sometimes required, apart from supervised and unsupervised learning, there is always a chance. There is always a chance where you are learning from the experiences. Your machine is trained on the basis of experience, and as soon as it gains experience, as many times it gains experience, it will improve the performance of it. So this is the basic use of learning with the help of experience in machine learning domain. As said by Tom Michel, a computer program is said to learn from experience with respect to some class of task and performance measure P. Now, if its performance at the task in T is measured by P, it improves the experience P. Let us understand how we are going to see it. See, learning is essential for unknown environments. Obviously, let us take an example of ourselves. Let us say there is a new language, there is a new coding language that I don't know. So until I learn that language, I will be a very unknown person to that language. I won't know what that language does and how that language does, how the executions take place, what are the components required, what will be the software that I'll require. So everything depends on learning. If you want to know something, you need to learn it. You need to get the knowledge. Secondly, learning is useful as a system construction method. Obviously, if you want to construct a system, if you want to, make some kind of policies, if you want to construct something, there is a lot of scope of knowledge. You need to understand, you need to learn very many things. Then learning modifies the agent's decision mechanisms to improve performance. Obviously, see, until you have experience and until you have learning, you cannot decide on your own that which thing would be better enough. Like, for example, if you people already know, in C programming language, there are various looping structures that we can use. We can use for loop, we can use do while loop, we can use while loop. So until you people know what are these three looping structures and how they differ, why one is used, why another is not used, in what conditions we should use while, in what conditions we should use for loop. So until you know these things, you cannot decide. So what happens is, when you develop a learning, when you develop a knowledge, that helps you out in modifying your decisions, and that will indirectly help in improving your performance. So obviously all the three statements that we have seen right now, they always help you in improving your environment. So all the three statements, one thing is common, that it is the learning which helps you out in creating a different kind of a world, right? So this is an important task. Now, as I have told you that machine learning always tell you that how you can acquire a model on the basis of data and experiment. So see, here when we talk about machine learning, the machine learning has three ways of learning. A machine always acquires three different ways of learning the things, because obviously machine learning is an artificial concept where you are training your machine to develop knowledge into it. So it takes up three different ways. What are these different ways? First of all, learning through the parameters. How can you learn through the parameters? With the help of probabilities, right? Then second way of learning is learning structures. Structure means how you're organizing the things, how how segments and components should be placed to learn the things. And thirdly, you can learn hidden concepts. What are the hidden concepts? Like what are the underlying basics and the concepts which can be used to train a machine. So these are the three ways in which a machine can train, or a machine can be given knowledge. It can be trained over that. So these are the three ways in which you can train your machine. Then, as we have already seen, the above three, the learning algorithms we have seen, the supervised learning, the unsupervised learning, semi-supervised learning we have seen. Now I'm going to tell you about what is reinforcement learning. So an agent which is interacting with the world makes observation, takes action, and is rewarded or punished. Now it should learn to choose actions in such a way as to obtain a lot of reward. So now understand what exactly is reinforcement learning. See it, you just you can associate this particular learning, and you can recall it with the help of small incidents which all of you have gone through once in your lifetime. Let's say in your childhood days, when you did something wrong. Let's say you spilled water over your bed, or you did some kind of an answer, you wrote some kind of an answer wrongly, or anything, any mistakes that you have done, any blunder mistakes that you have done. On those mistakes, your parents used to scold you, or sometimes they slapped you on that particular mistake. Now, due to those things, due to those punishments, you understood one thing, that if you were scolded, or if you were slapped at that moment, you understood that the thing, whatever you have done, is actually a wrong thing. So it was it created a sting in your mind, that if I'll do so again, I'll be scolded back, or somebody will slap me out, because this is a wrong thing and I have done this. So the punishments and the rewards are just an action to show what is wrong and what is right. Now, let's say if you topped the class, if you got very good numbers, you got 90% in your particular class, and your parents took you to outing, a day outing, and they give you a very good treat, they gave you some gifts. So that made you, realize that if you'll do something good like that, or if you will again, if you will again acquire this much of percentage, then in that case again you are going to you are going to be rewarded by your parents. So this is a perfect example of reinforcement learning, where uh, some kind of actions like punishment or being rewarded, they always give you the experience that what should be done and what not should be done. So this is what reinforcement learning is, and actually this type of learning is is given to machine learning in case if you are applying reinforcement learning. However, there are some different situations and there are some kind of conditions in which only you can apply reinforcement learning. I'm not saying this, and I would not say this that every time on any kind of data and in any kind of scenario you can apply this reinforcement learning. But yes, there are some specific conditions and situations where only reinforcement learning can be applicable, and it would give good results if you apply reinforcement learning. So that was about reinforcement learning. We understood what is reinforcement learning. Now, as I told you, that we are going to see what uh, all are the algorithms which are related to supervised learning. So, we are now going to cover up supervised learning algorithms, which are very common and very famous ones. So one of them we have already done, that was k-means algorithm. Now I'm going to tell you further about different set of algorithms which are called decision tree algorithms. So we are going to learn in this lecture about decision tree. So see, in supervised learning algorithm, there are two broad different ways of learning. One is through classification and one is through regression. So let us see. As such, when we talk about classification, it is actually a two-step process. How do we do it? First of all, we need to construct the model, and then we need to use that model. We need to apply or implement that model. So how would we do that? First of all, in model construction, we need to describe a set of predetermined classes. Now, each sample or each tuple is assumed to belong to a predefined class as determined by the class label. Then the set of tuples used for model construction, the uh, the data that we are using for the model construction, it is called the training set, and these model is represented as classification rules. Now, the model exactly is what? Applying algorithm. So algorithm can be the classification rules, they can be decision trees, or they can be any kind of mathematical formula which exist. Then after this phase, as I told you that this classification is a two-step process. One step is of model construction, and the second step is of model usage. Now, when you are done with the model construction, you have decided that which kind of algorithm you are going to apply on your data. You have broke down your data into two different parts. One is your training set, and another one is your testing set. Then you will apply this model. Now, for classifying future or unknown objects, we apply the model and we estimate the accuracy of the model. See, one important thing is there that whenever you are classifying the things, let's say you have given the data to your machine, you have trained your machine over that data. After training your machine, you have even tested your machine over the results, right? Now, once you get the results, it is your duty and it is an important task to find out that whatever results your machine has given, is it an accurate one? You need to check out the accuracy on the scale of 100. Like if it is 90% accurate or if it is 70% accurate. Now, accuracy will always tell you that how efficient was your model construction and how efficient was your total classification model, how efficient was your training. So this will always give you the answer to it, right? Now, the known labels of the test samples is compared with the classified result from the model in this model usage matter. Then your test set is independent of the training set. Obviously, as I told you, if you, let us say, if you have a total of 100 data, then in that case, a minimum of, 50% dividation is required, minimum of. However, what do we do is training set is always taken to be a large portion. Like you can take 60% training and 30% testing data, or you can take 70% training and a 30% this testing data. So it depends. Usually, what happens is we always take the training set to be more in comparison to testing set. So after doing this, if accuracy is acceptable, then you use the model to classify the data tuples whose class labels are not known. So do remember that we only apply this model in case if your classification model gives a very good or very efficient accuracy. Otherwise, we usually avoid using such kind of models which are not very efficient enough, as there are not many algorithms that you can apply and that can give you a very good result. So we usually not apply such kind of algorithms which are showing accuracy of less than 80%. So at least to apply a model, we need our models to be at least 80% accurate. That is a basic requirement. Now this diagram is showing the classification task. See here what is happening. Now this is your complete data, this whole training plus testing, this whole is your complete data. That means total 15 data is there, and as I told you, just see to it. We have taken a large portion as a training set, a small portion of total 5 elements to be the testing set, right? Now what we are doing is we are providing this training data to my machine learning model. Now again understand this thing, why I am calling it as a model. A classification model is one which is having two components. What are the two components? We need to understand. Do remember this: learning model is nothing by its own. It is, it doesn't have any kind of existence on its name. A learning model comprises of two important things. What? The data, the training set, okay, that is here it is 10. And secondly, the learning algorithm which you are applying, it could be k-means, it could be decision tree, it could be anything else, whatever suits your condition. So the training data together with the learning algorithm, they both make a model. They both make a model learn. So this makes your model learn. After you have prepared the model, what you are going to do is you are going to apply this model on the training set. So whatever I have learned, let us say I was learning something, I was learning a Python language. So once I have learned, I'm going to implement my learning over making some kind of things. So now I will try to make my own Python program. So once I'll try to make my Python program, I would be knowing even after then that I am able to make it, what kind of errors I have made, and how much accurate I have made my code. So this is the same thing. Once you have made the learning model, then you are going to apply this model over the testing set. Now, what happens? There are some kind of issues sometimes in your data, like data cleaning is required while you are working with the data. You are working on the training data set. You first of all need to pre-process your data, because data, it is always in a raw form, and it consists of very many, missing values. Sometimes some kind of noise is there. Noise means the garbage values, the not so required data. So we need to filter out all these things for preparing the model. Then we need to do feature selection, the relevance analysis. What is that? Actually, see, when you are specifying some kind of a thing like, let's say, what should I give you the example of here? Uh, let's say if you are, concerned, if you are training your machine over two different fruits, let's say apple and mango, and you are training on the basis of only colors, that if you have red color, it is an apple, if you have yellow color, it is a mango, right? Now in that case, every time whenever a new data comes to you about any fruit, you will only consider the color of those fruits, right? Because you are taught, The model that taught you, you are on only taught on the basis of the colors. Now in this case, you will only select the feature of colors. You won't be, you won't be concerned about the size of the apple, because your machine is not trained on the basis of size. So that is an irrelevant attribute for you. If somebody will give you, three attributes of the fruits like color, the size, and the shape. So size and shape would be totally irrelevant features for you, because your machine is not trained on that. Your machine is always trained on the colors part. So only those features will be relevant, and those features will be selected for the training purpose. So this is an important task. Then data transformation. Now data transformation means that, you know uh, you need to sometimes transform your data. If you have, let's say you have digital data, you need to convert it into analog data. Let's say you have analog and you need to convert it into digital data. So the data can be in any format. Now whatever condition suits you, you need to transform your data into that particular format. So this is an important task. Now we come over to the classification techniques. These are some of the classification techniques. They are here, whatever you are seeing, but they are not limited to these. There are not many other supervised learning algorithms also, but these are the basics ones and the very important ones. So let us just see. First of all, we have decision tree based methods. Then second is rule based methods. Then naive Bayes and Bayesian belief method. Then we have neural networks, and then we have support vector machines, also called SVMs. So all these algorithms are based on classification techniques. Now, as I told you that we are going to cover up decision trees today. So here are some of the problem statements on the basis of which we decide whether to wait for a table at a restaurant based on the following attributes. Now, what would be the problems? Number one, deciding on the alternate restaurant, that you should go to this or that. Then, bar, is there a comfortable bar area to wait in? So again, the decision factor comes in. Now, today is Thursday or Friday. Again, there is a decision part. Then, are we hungry or we not? Again, this is a decision. So, see, decision tree algorithms will always be applied in a scenario where you need to opt for any one choice. You need to decide out of the available choices that which one is better. You need to decide on something. So obviously, decision tree it is that means you will have some different options to decide from, and on the basis of that, you are going to decide that what you people are going to do. So do remember, as I told you in the previous lectures also, there are not many classification algorithms which works on the concept of training testing data, basically the classification concept. But I told you this thing again and again, that it is always the situations and the conditions on the basis of which we decide that which type of algorithm will be more suitable. Now let's see, you have seen these 10 decision problem statements. Now, clear cut, we can see that here in solving these problems, we need to decide whether to go for option A or go for option B, right? We can clearly see that a decision factor is there. But let's say instead of applying this decision, let's say we have done k-means algorithm. Just understand that in place of deciding, let's say I need to decide on whether today is Friday or not. So in that case, what I would do, I would, I would, this, if I take or decide on using k-means algorithm. Now let us understand what will happen. The k-means algorithm is nothing to do here. How do we identify which data should be put in which cluster, and how to find out the centroid, how to find the center? It is of no use to us. So in that case, if you'll apply, k-means algorithm over this data, definitely the result would be inaccurate, right? The accuracy will be very low because the condition doesn't suit to that particular environment. So this is the case that you need to think of, that whichever algorithm is best suited for your condition, you need to apply that to get the higher rate of accuracy. Now these are the feature attributes. See here, you see the columns that are shown, they are showing the attributes. Like if you need an alternate something, like alternate restaurants is required, the bars, should I go for nearby bars? uh, Today is Friday or Thursday, so this is one thing. Then I am I hungry or not? Now these all attributes are on the basis of whether, see, the problem statement says that I need to decide whether to wait for a table at a restaurant or not. Now, for that, I have all these attributes: the type of restaurant I want, what type of food or cuisine I want to eat, the wait estimate time. Should I wait for 10 minutes or 10 to 50 minutes, or is it 30 to 60, or it is more than 1 hour? Then, have I made any kind of reservation? Is it raining outside? So, can I sit outside or not? So, on these bases, I need to decide. So, this is the table that we can. Let's see. This is the table that we make for finding out the attributes, right? Okay. So here you have seen, this is how we distribute the attributes. So here are the results. You see, target wait. What was our decision problem? That we need to, decide whether I should wait outside a restaurant on the basis of these attributes. So here the conclusion part is this. Using these, I can say yes, true, we should wait. The false means that I should not wait, right? So these are the results on the basis of these attributes. Now, how do we make decision trees on the basis of this? Now, one possible representation for this hypothesis could be in the form of the decision tree. Here, see the decision tree, right? So here, let's say uh, I'm going to decide now patrons. I don't need any patron. There are some patrons, that is true. Then wait estimate how much time I have to wait. So that would be, if it is greater than 60, no, I should not wait. If it is this, and alternate, should I, go for reservation? If it is no, then should I go for a bar? If it is no, then it's okay. If it is yes, then I should wait. So this whole thing is a decision tree where you are seeing every node is having two different type of decision. One is either false or true, false and true, false and true. If you are deciding to go for a particular thing, it would be yes. If you are deciding that no, you don't want to choose that particular option, you can have no to it. So this is basically a result here. Now, decision trees can express any function of the input attribute. Example, the Boolean function where the truth table row represents path to lead, right? Here we can say, see, gradually we are coming over to this leaf nodes. Now, trivially, there is a consistent decision tree for any training set with one path leaf for each example, unless some f non-deterministic moves in their x, but it probably won't generalize to new examples. And we prefer to find more compact decision trees in this case because decision trees on the basis of the attributes, they can expand a much lot. So we don't require to have it like that. Now, we'll see what is decision tree learning. So here the aim is to find a small tree consistent with the training example. An idea behind this is to choose more significant attributes as a root of the tree, right? Now here we are writing the functions like example the attributes, the default values, which returns a precision tree. Now if example is empty, then return default. If your example doesn't contain any attribute, you need to return. Else, if all the examples are the same classification, then return the classification. Or if all the examples are resulting in the same result, same decision, then you can output the decision. Then else, if attributes is empty, then return mode. You need to return the mode that why the attributes are empty. Now, else, what do we need to do if all these three conditions are not existing? Then we need to choose the best attributes in the given examples, and after that, a new decision tree with the best root test will be given to the tree. A best root will be given. Then for each value of the node of best, what do we need to do? We need to find the best example and then again, finding and selecting the best example to make it as a parent node, and we continue to branch our tree with this with the help of this algorithm. It will be looping again and again until you reach on the terminal node. So this is a simple concept of decision tree learning where we are using looping structures. Now, decision tree construction algorithm. How do we construct the decision tree? First of all, we need to apply the principle. What is it? It is any kind of basic algorithm adopted by IB3, C4.5, and CAR. It could be a greedy algorithm. Obviously, a greedy algorithm is required because on every step or on every level of the tree, we want to have the optimal result. We don't want to have feasible result. We want an optimal result. Optimal means the best result according to the conditions, underlying conditions, right? Then the tree is constructed in a top-down recursive manner, top-down divide and conquer manner. Top-down means we cannot start from the terminal node. We will always have to start from our root node, and we will keep on branching the root node until we reach to a separate solutions. This is what we call the divide and conquer strategy, where a single node is divided into further branches, then those branches will further get divided into or further branches. So this is basically divide and conquer strategy that we use. So do remember, decision tree algorithm apply two different design algorithm approaches. One is the greedy algorithm and another one is the recursive divide and conquer algorithm. Then second comes the iteration part. At the start, where the training tuples are at the root, then tuples are gradually partitioned recursively based on those selected attributes. Now the test attributes are selected on the basis of heuristic or statistical measure, which is it could be information gain, it could be chi-square, anything. And then stopping condition. What should be the terminating conditions? So the process will stop or terminate when all the samples for a given node belong to the same class, or there are no remaining attributes for further partitioning, right? And maybe there could be a case when there are no samples left. So this is the swapping condition. So all these three things, deciding on the principle, the iteration, what will you iterate, what will you repeat will be processing, And thirdly, what will be the terminating conditions of which you are going to stop. So these are the things that you will decide on. You see, again, this is one of the examples. Should I buy a computer or not? So this is my decision calling. Should I buy a computer or I shouldn't? I should not buy a computer. So these are some of the attributes on which I'm going to decide that what is my age, what is my income, am I a student, and what is my credit rating. I have taken any loan and I have paid it on well on the time. So this is one case, and on the basis of these attributes, I am going to decide whether I should buy a computer or not. So see here, I have taken age to be the most prominent best attribute on which I can further divide. So I have made it as a root rule. Now, on the basis of that, I'm going to decide what is my class, and if I'm middle aged, what is my age, and then the class, right? If I'm young, then what is my class? If I'm middle aged, then what is my class? And if I'm senior, then what is my class? So here you can see the examples are showing. So see, uh, when you are doing tree induction, you always apply the greedy strategy. You split the records based on the attribute test that will optimize a certain criteria, right? Now, what will be the issues? You need to determine how to split the cloud records, how to specify the attribute test conditions, how to determine the best split. Now, we need to determine when we need to stop splitting. That means the termination point on which we have to think upon. Now, how do we choose the attribute, the best attribute to make it as a your root node? So, idea behind is a good attribute split the examples into subsets that are all positive or that are all negative. So, this is the example. Now, as you can see here, when I'm dividing, you see the patrons when I'm dividing the things. Either I have got false, or I have got true, or I have got more false and less true. But if you see the second type, here you can see every time on every choice, I am getting both the things whether I should have, it can be no, it can be false, it can be no, it can be false. So, which one is the better choice that I can decide? So how do we prefer? Nodes with the homogeneous class distributions are preferred over others, right? We need to measure a node impurity. Like if it is non-homogeneous, it has high degree of impurity, and if it is homogeneous, then it has got low impurity. Now, how can we do that? How can we find the node impurity? It is with the help of information given, the Gini index, the misclassification error. We can select any of them to find out the impurity factor. These are the ways that we can use for information gain, the formulas that we can use to find out the impurity using information gain. So this is the formula that we can apply. This is called the Gini index. This is a general conclusion on the basis of comparison done on information gain ratio and Gini index. So these are the things. Information gain is said to be biased towards multi-valued attribute, but the gain ratio tends to prefer unbalanced splits in which one partition is much smaller than others. Then we have Gini index, which is based to multi-valued function. and it has difficulty when hash of classes is large, where there is lot of classes. Then we need to tends to favor tests that results in equal size partition and purity in both the partitions. So now let us just quickly see what are the advantages of decision tree. It is easy to construct, extremely fast at classifying uneven records. The models are easy to interpret from small size trees. Accuracy is comparable to other classification techniques. It is far more accurate for many simple data sets. Then the tree models make no assumptions about the distribution of underlying data. They are non-parametric. And then finally, we have a built-in feature selection method that makes them immune to the presence of useless variables. As such, there are some disadvantages also. What are they? Now they are very expensive to train. Then some decision trees can be overly complex that do not generalize the data as well. So this can be a complexity that as much as attributes will be there, your tree will get more and more complex, and it will be very difficult for you to conclude to a accurate decision. Then there is a lex expression part. They may be concepts that are hard to learn with limited decision trees. So these are the drawbacks of your decision trees. Overfitting can be a problem here. And if you want to, ignore this overfitting, and if you want to, prevent your tree from overfitting, you need to either do pre-pruning or the post-pruning. So this is all about decision tree algorithm. For the rule-based methods, we are going to cover up tomorrow. So till now, I think this is what we have done for today: the reinforcement learning and the decision tree classification algorithm. I hope the topic is already clear to you. Now I'm just going to share MCQs with all of you. So quickly see these questions. The thing is, which of the following sequence falls in the case of uh, k nearest neighbor algorithm? Which of the following sequence is true here? These are the next set of questions. Questions. Let's go to number 6 and 7. I hope these questions are very, simple to all of you. So let's take the next set of questions, question number 8 and 9. Number 8. Then we have question number 9 and 10. Number 10. So by now, I hope that you people were able to understand what is reinforcement learning and what are decision tree algorithms, in which situations you should apply decision tree algorithms, because that is a different kind of classification thing where you need to apply them only in the case where the situation asks you to decide on something. So I hope this will be clear to you. And in tomorrow's lecture, I'm going to cover up the further topics related to classification, that is rule-based learning, and other some more important algorithms. Till then, friends, please keep studying, and we'll meet tomorrow. Thanks.